What is up? This is your LA in a minute, and I'm here downtown in front of a church, which is a shrine to many in Los Angeles. But before this glorious building was a church, it was a shrine to millions in LA, in Mexico, throughout the world. This was the Olympic Auditorium, where legends were made: boxing, wrestling, roller derby, rave music, punk rock. We're talking about the Olympic Auditorium, LA's Palace of Heroes. Let's get into it. So the Olympic Auditorium was built as LA's population boom was underway. LA was turning into a metropolis in the 1920s, and this was going to be the world's largest indoor venue at the time, with seating for 10,000. It was constructed in 1924 and completed with its grand opening in 1925, with celebrities spanning the spectrum from Rudolph Valentino to Jack Dempsey, all in attendance. The Olympic Auditorium really was a historical shrine, not just for boxing and wrestling, which initially filled the arena, but it was like going back in time. There was a culture, there was a romance. It was compared to gladiators entering the arena at the Coliseum. From his time playing host to Olympic boxing and wrestling in the 1932 Olympic Games, to hosting legendary fights, to be at the very epicenter of a rising culture in Los Angeles, the Olympic Auditorium was legendary. It played host to so many memorable movies, because it was that authentic. It was that tense, dark, raw atmosphere that could only be had at the Olympic Auditorium. And it happened in Los Angeles precisely because Los Angeles needed the Olympic Auditorium. So you have to remember, the 1940s, Los Angeles didn't yet have a major pro sports team. So the Olympic Auditorium was major sports. The boxing events were the main events in Los Angeles. So they would fill 10,000 seats regularly at the most esteemed venue in Los Angeles at the time. That's about when Eileen Eaton got involved. Her husband Cal was a boxing promoter in Los Angeles, but Eileen took it to the next level by taking over the promotion and management business, becoming the only licensed female boxing manager and promoter in the United States, and spearheading a new era of growth for the Olympic. She was a mastermind and a marketing whiz. She understood the changing demographics in Los Angeles, and she marketed accordingly. For instance, Art Aragon was the original Golden Boy, but she'd match him up with Enrique Bolaños, a Mexican superstar. She embraced wrestling, first with the likes of Gorgeous George and Fred Blassie, and introducing the world to the likes of Andre the Giant, Rowdy Roddy Piper, and Iron Sheik. And all the while, the Olympic kept putting on show after show after show, one of the most attended venues in all the United States. It was all about entertainment, but at its core, it was always about good competition and great fights. The 1960s were a transitional time for downtown Los Angeles. Freeways started slicing through neighborhoods. People started leaving for the suburbs, and the Olympics' luster was being lost a little bit. Weekly fights now became monthly, and attendance started dwindling. Soon a new era took hold. Muhammad Ali had an exhibition match against Richard Pryor, Marvin Gaye, and Sammy Davis Jr., and stars were still in attendance. I mean, Jack couldn't be at the Fabulous Forum every night. And as LA kept evolving, wrestlers in boxing kept calling the Olympic the Mecca. Julio Cesar Chavez said he shed tears the first time that he fought at the Olympic Auditorium. I mean, words can't do it justice, but these photos, most of them by Theo Arrett, who was the in-house photographer for the Olympic, really do capture some of the emotion and just what it meant to Los Angeles. I mean, look at the faces on these three guys at a concert at the Olympic Auditorium. And then in the 80s, there was Gary Tovar, Golden Voice, and the burgeoning punk scene in Los Angeles. It's hard to capture, it's hard to describe, but it's one of the most powerful scenes in Los Angeles, US, and world history. And that's right. It started at the Olympic Auditorium. But around that time, it switched ownership, and it was never quite the same afterward. LA's next Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya, did fight there, and LA's own Rage Against the Machine had what was thought to be their last hurrah with two shows at the then-named Grand Olympic Auditorium in 2000. But in 2005, it was turned into the Glory Church of Jesus Christ, a place for Korean worship. And honestly, I was inspired to do this episode by this awesome documentary, 18th and Grand. It's produced by Robert Benavides, directed by Stephen Dubrow. It's on Amazon Prime. It's legit. If you love LA and its history, watch this. I learned so much about the city and so much about the Olympic Auditorium. So today, this is still a shrine, but it's not the palace that it once was. The Olympic Auditorium was where LA legends were made, and it really was LA's Palace of Heroes. All right, LA, it's been a minute.